Michael Dentice, Dentice in attendees
Yes,
with Metro Transit? Should he be a panelist?
he should be a panelist. Yes.
Okay. Ariana, could you move him to panelist, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for catching that, Ann.
Sure. Seems to happen to a lot of people. Hello. You're sideways, Lynn. Oh, there you are. Looks like we have a quorum. We're just waiting for 5 o'clock. Okay, I see it's 5 o'clock and I'm just double check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We just have a quorum. We have 6, so we can move forward. I will call the July 9th, 2025 meeting of the Transportation Commission to order. And Ariana, would you please read the instructions?
Welcome to our virtual meeting. We're going to cover a few basic items before beginning. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. To members and city staff, members, if you're able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you are able, please activate your video when you are speaking. Use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak or ask questions. Staff, click raise hand when you're asked a question. The chair will do their best to call on committee members in the order in which hands are raised. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public who have registered to speak. The name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. The clerk will tell you when your time is up. After speaking, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the commission, please send it to the email listed on today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Oh, thanks, Ariana. Aiden, if you call a roll, please.
Sure. William Okovich, Sean O'Brien,
Present.
Dina Nina Martinez Rutherford,
Present.
Barbara Harrington McKinney, Ann Kovich,
Here.
Robbie Weber,
Here.
Pepe Barros, Chris McCahill,
Here.
Bill Brummer,
Here.
Kaylee Jameson,
Here.
Lynn Olson,
Present.
and then Harold Cleams and Denise Jess are excused.
Okay. Thanks,
Sorry.
Aiden.
Excuse me, Chair. I just got here a little bit late, a minute late, but I'm here. Pepe here.
Great, thanks. We'll note you down. Okay. So Kaylee and Lynn, with the two excused folks tonight, you are both able to make motions and vote tonight. Did everybody, excuse me, have a chance to take a look at the minutes from the last meeting? Bill, go ahead.
I'll make a motion for approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
There's a motion. Alder O'Brien,
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to assume a unanimous consent vote unless anybody wishes to vote no or abstain. If so, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, the motion is carried. Aiden, do we have anybody registered under item 1?
We do. We have one person, William Herzog of Muirfield Road, wishes to speak.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey everyone. Yeah, I live at the corner of Muirfield Road and Raymond Road, and I am calling, or I'm here to kind of complain about the relocation of the bus stop that's currently located on Muirfield Road to just around the corner on Raymond Road. As you guys may be aware, I think it's on the agenda for later. There was a fatality a couple of months ago, kind of kitty quarter away from us, and relocating the bus stop to its new location is just going to introduce a blind left-hand turn down kind of an already dangerous intersection. So my ask is, I've tried reaching out to the Metro department and my alder lady, and I haven't gotten any traction or any discussion. I don't know if this is the right forum to pose this, but I'm just really looking for some direction here and some discussion if you'll have it.
Well, since it's not on the agenda for discussion this evening, that's not a possibility. But there actually, because there's something else related to Metro on the agenda, I'm sure that the folks from Metro are taking notes and will take a look into that further. So, and the quarterly traffic safety report is on the agenda, so there may be some discussion about it as it relates to that.
All right, sounds good. Should I pass along my contact information? I've sent an email to, I think, the general email, as well as like the GM, the Metro GM. I think that's Mr. Knapp. Is that the right contact, or is there someone else I should be going to?
I think if you send it to the Transportation Commission email, then Aiden will, which is on the agenda, then Aiden, who's our clerk, will send it to all the commission members so we can see, and then we'll forward the appropriate folks at Metro as well.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Does anybody have a comment or a question for the registrant? Michael, go ahead. Okay, Alder Okovich, go ahead.
I wanted to say thank you for coming out. Would I assume your main concern is regarding, you mentioned a blind left-hand turn, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Is your main concern the bus making the left-hand turn or having to cross Raymond Road to get to the bus stop?
This would be cars heading westbound on Raymond Road. The new location for the bus stop appears to be just past the intersection, and cars frequently speed going westbound on that road. So typically cars are, going left on Raymond to either cut through Gammond or, go further west towards, I don't know, Epic or something. But having a bus stop there, it kind of cuts off the vision, and any car that's speeding could create a really difficult position for that car trying to turn left. I also have some other personal concerns about noise and just how close it is to my building now, but primarily concerned about the safety.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks. Well, if you forward that information, Aiden will be sure and get it to all the commission members and also to the appropriate folks at Metro. And thanks for coming. We appreciate it. Is there anybody else registered, Aiden?
No, there is not.
Okay, thanks. Anybody have any disclosures or recusals this evening? Okay, seeing none. Next, we have 4 items proposed for the consent agenda. That's items 2 through 5. Do you have anybody registered to speak on items 2 through 5?
We do not.
Okay, does anybody wish any of the items to be separated from the consent agenda? Okay, I'm seeing no hands. Is there a motion on the consent agenda? Chris?
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, Robbie?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. I'm assuming no discussion, otherwise you would have asked for it to be separated. So I'm going to assume a unanimous consent vote unless anybody wishes to vote no or abstain or ask for a roll call vote. Okay. Seeing no hands, the consent agenda is approved. Okay, next we move on to item 6, update on transit equity for people with disabilities. Brian and Mick, and have you brought other folks with you too? Oh, hi, Jesse.
Yes, a couple other folks.
Okay.
Jesse Stammer and Mike Dentis are joining us as well.
Okay. Perhaps, Jesse, I know you from times past. I don't know Michael, so maybe both of you could introduce yourselves because I'm not sure if everybody on the New Transportation Commission knows you.
Yes, of course. Good afternoon. I am Jessie Stammer. I am the Chief People Officer here at Metro. I've been in that role for about 6-ish months now from the beginning of the year, but Metro is not new to me. I've been with the company for about 13 years in the marketing and customer service area. So nice to meet all of you that I haven't met before.
Yeah, welcome. Michael.
I am actually the new customer service manager, so I took up one of Jesse's old roles as of May. I am new to customer service manager. I'm not new to Madison or transportation. I used to attend these meetings back in the day as a member of transportation here in Madison, but new to this role. But I do have background in operations here.
Great, thanks. Welcome. Okay, who's gonna start us out here?
All right, and just so we all know, Mike Chekvala, who we all know, is also going to join us tonight. So,
Afternoon, everybody.
So I'll be doing little parts of this presentation and all available for questions when we're done. So we will give it a start, and I will share my screen.
Thanks, Mick.
All right, and first slide is to Brian.
Here it comes. There we go.
Hi everybody. So to start off, we wanted to address some of the questions that we had from our last update on transit equity for individuals with disabilities. And a lot of the questions were surrounding the bridge plates and their use at the stations, how we line them up, how they're used, things like that. So we just kind of distilled some of that information down to 4 big questions. What the drivers use to guide them into the gap in the stations. So especially for our left side stations that you see in the center running lanes, there is a glass wall and a bench in between the 2 doors there. So if the bus is not lined up correctly, it's not going to allow people on the bus. The drivers have, when they pull up, there's a small reflective star. You can maybe even see it when you're driving past there. They're intended to line up with that star as they're pulling in. And if they do that, then the rest of the bus will line up appropriately with the 2 yellow markers where the door should be. So that's what they use for that. There are times where they may not be able to fully line up to it. If it is way too outside the bounds of kind of the wide area where those doors can line up, then they may have to pull up once more to just have one door available, which is pretty rare. The variance for error is pretty large there, so it's okay if it's not fully lined up, but it is important that it's as lined up as close as possible so people can expect where to be able to get on there. The drivers do have some use of cameras when they open their rear doors, particularly their rear left doors. There are cameras that show the opening of the door on the actual dash of the bus. So similar to when you're using a backup camera in your own car or anything like that. They have a camera there on their left side, particularly because the doors are directly behind them and there's no way for them to twist their body to see if anybody is still in those doors. So there are cameras there. Mainly in the drivers can kind of change the use of those cameras there, but they're primarily to make sure that nobody's still in the doorway while they're trying to close the doors and it's clear from any obstacles. Any other tools that the drivers have? We do have the yellow curb bumpers that you've probably seen. They stick out about 3 inches or so from the platform, where the driver is able to kind of rub up against them with their tires. That's something that we're looking at for the north-south BRT, is adjusting that to make sure it's not at bus level, so it's not scraping up any part of the bus there. But we do have that so the drivers can get as close as possible to that station without having any sort of major gap or any sort of major damage from rubbing up against the concrete. And lastly, the gap issue is communicated to drivers through field notices. So directly in the field, we're calling out issues that we see with the gap, particularly a gap that's more than 4 inches, or a gap that is too big that the bridge would not bridge that gap. And additionally, we are working through refresher training right now through our entire frontline staff. So you might see some buses this week with training flashing on the scrolls. That is a group of existing drivers who are going through and kind of refreshing their skills with using those left side doors and lining up correctly. So next slide.
All right. Thanks, Brian. So we just wanted to give you an update of what we have been doing since last meeting. The first one, and Jesse will be talking about it, the safety team did a review at various stations. Like Brian said, we've been working with drivers, and we've been reviewing customer feedback, which is what Mike will be covering a little bit later. Jesse.
Thanks, Mick. So a part of my chief people officer role is kind of making a bigger emphasis on safety and training. And a portion of that is staffing our safety planning team, which consists of a group of, I think, about 6-7 individuals that are throughout our agency. So not just in our safety planning department or just in our operational department, but as a department as a whole. So there's even HR staff and IT staff on there, just to kind of holistically look at safety throughout our organization. So that team came together and we did what we called a safety blitz. That was done on June 4th between our morning rush hour hours of 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. And we had people of our safety planning team, along with some of our operational management staff, go out and observe a handful of BRT station platforms for about an hour at a time. And we were specifically looking at 4 key areas that included, again, our gaps, which Brian just touched upon, making sure those are about that 4-inch period away from the platform, that ramps were being deployed, and then pedestrians and how they were interacting with our platforms. We've been getting some complaints in just general. We can see it right outside our office doors too. of pedestrians not utilizing crosswalks properly. So we were trying to gauge how often that is happening and how we can best stop that. And then just passengers being passed up due to not being seen or drivers not engaging with that properly. So we observed the stations at Westfield, Broadway, High Point, Midvale, Rosa, First Street, and Patterson. And those were chosen for specific reasons. Some of them being, you pull straight up into certain BRT stations, and in other stations, you have to be set up perfectly correct where you're actually pulling into them rather than just stopping within the lane of traffic. And others were just different higher points of use and just a broad variety of kind of our station platforms. We were also looking for how people with disabilities are interacting with those. Unfortunately, in our entire safety blitz, there was not any period of time where a person with a wheelchair or a disability was boarding the bus. And so we were not able to get great data on that. So we will be conducting safety blitzes again in the future. This review, along with just what Brian has spoke about before and what we've been seeing, was kind of how we gauged our refresher training and what we were specifically focusing on for that as well. And Brian touched on that too. So that started last week, and we'll be running through all of our drivers over the course of the summer.
All right, Brian.
So, like we already just kind of mentioned, refresher training is happening right now through the rest of the summer. Like I said, you'll be seeing some test buses going up and down our BRT route, giving operators who don't typically take BRT shifts the opportunity to practice that, get better at it, and for those who do have those shifts to continue to refine those skills and make sure they haven't become, complacent in what they're doing. There is, in general, the tendency to not be as close on the left side stations as they are on the right side stations, just because left side doors are a new thing still to our operators. So getting them more and more comfortable with getting close to those stations while approaching in there slowly is kind of the focus of that on-street training. And again, like Jesse mentioned, we have a majority of our stops, you'll notice buses just pull right in and they're easy to line up with. But for example, like the University Bay stop, when you're going, whether it be westbound, you kind of have to do a curve into the stop and then line up. So the front doors might be lined up very well, but the back doors are likely not, just because of the hinge in the middle of the bus. So practicing that, slowing down, and making sure that they have the appropriate approach to that is kind of what the focus is right now.
All right. So we've also been reviewing feedback, and some of the big things we've been hearing since the last meeting is deploying the bridge plate. That's why we've been talking about it so much tonight, and reducing the gap. So those are the still biggest issues. Mike, is there anything else that I missed on this slide?
No, those are the two main themes that keep coming up.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. And then I'll say Mike and I took a ride with some disability rights advocates, and we got some suggestions along the ride. Some of the things that we heard was we needed to do a better job of creating a contrast between the red pavement of the road and the BRT bus lane and the identical red platform edge, because that's the same color. It was pointed out that, and I was doing it myself on the ride, is that we need to have some signage on the bridge plate to move away when you get on the bus, because when it comes into the bus, it's kind of coming into a standing area, and I myself was in the way as we were on this test ride. So especially when it's being deployed, we want to put some signage on there just to have people give some space to people boarding on the bridge plate. Also, it was recommended to better promote the self-securement wheelchair area, which is a pretty neat new device where a wheelchair user can get on the bus themselves and secure the wheelchair themselves with minimal driver assistance. There's also a suggestion to create videos on using that wheelchair securement, which we are going to be working on. And then there's also suggestion to encourage riders to put the seats up so that a wheelchair can easily get into that front area of the bus. And it was described to us as we were on that ride that sometimes there's confrontations for people needing to move away. So if we just have those seats up, or maybe have a seat that automatically flips up when they're not in use, so so that wheelchairs can easily get into those spots. And then there also was a recommendation to put major destinations possibly added to our onboard announcements, such as shopping centers and grocery stores once we arrive at those locations. Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mick. Just some other improvements that we're looking at related to the stations. Passenger safety and the safety of everybody is our top priority. So we've been investigating a few things. One thing that's been a concern is this step that exists at some of the side running stations. And I realize that picture doesn't have a lot of context to it, but since the platform is 13.5 inches and the sidewalk is typically 6 inches above the street, that leaves a gap and a vertical distance that is often accomplished with a step. We tried to eliminate that step in where we could, but in many places we couldn't because of whatever landscaping or building or whatever was behind the sidewalk. We couldn't raise the sidewalk up. That was kind of the first step, but in many cases we could not do that. So we wanted to highlight this step. This is a secondary entrance and exit to the station. It's not the only entrance, and so every station has at least one accessible entrance to it. But we wanted to make sure that people were not being caught off guard and potentially falling on this step, and also so that they knew where the accessible entrance was. To that end, we're investigating doing a thicker, more robust yellow stripe, as you can kind of see in that little picture there, that would bring people's attention to that step. And then a supplemental watch your step sign, and then the accessible symbol with a arrow pointing people towards the accessible entrance, just to make sure that people are aware of that step and that they know how to use the accessible entrance. The other thing that Mick brought up earlier was the contrast between the detectable warning fields, which are the bumps or the truncated domes at the platform edge, and the red bus lane. So we actually put quite a bit of thought into the colors of the materials there. There are a number of things that we tried to make clash with each other. There's the platform surface itself, which is white or gray concrete, and then the warning field, and then the yellow docking guide strip, and then the red bus lane. It does turn out that the warning fields and the bus lane came out to be almost the exact color, and from many angles, those two things, even though they're not next to each other, they're next to each other visibly. So we're looking at a couple options to remediate this. One option would be to paint a white or yellow line on the edge of the platform itself. Another option would be to make the pavement white or gray immediately outside of the platform area. So, the red is kind of a supplemental color to keep cars out of the lane, but it doesn't necessarily have to be red everywhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be red right outside the platform edge. So we're looking at those two options to retrofit the east-west BRT platforms, and then include that in the north-south BRT platforms, whatever solution comes up. And it might be a different solution, but we also like to have the solution be this uniform among all of the stations. So investigating a couple solutions to that one. One other thing that's come up is the need to indicate that people need the bridge plate at the station to the driver. As Brian mentioned, one of the things that's preventing that is the driver has no interaction with the passengers at most of the stations. And so one of the things we're looking at to fix that is some kind of signal or light that somebody can press a button and then the light would come on for probably some pre-timed amount of time. And then we're also, again, for North-South BRT, looking at expanding that solution or in some way addressing a way to have the drivers be able to interact with passengers or have that signal light there for them. So one of the things is just those glass panels that are right outside the driver's window. The driver looks out the window and the glass panel is right there, so it's physically impossible for them to talk to somebody who's on the platform. We're going to look at some very slight rearrangements of things to maybe make that possible.
All right, and then training events will be the another next step we're going to do. And Mike D.
I'm excited to announce that we are going to be doing a few training events here in July, at the end of July. As of right now, we haven't planned for the following week. I believe the dates that we have planned are July 22nd, 24th, and 29th. Myself, as well as other staff, will be at various locations throughout the city. We're planning one stop out at Junction and Watts, one stop at the Capitol Square, and one stop on the east side. We haven't finalized the east side location yet. We should have materials out promoting these as of tomorrow. Our marketing staff should have them out. Working with MPO to also promote these to the public in general. Like I said, we will have staff along with myself out at these stations, working with people to get comfortable with loading the bus, getting on the bus, getting off the bus, how to use the routes, how to diagnose where to get on the bus, where to get off the bus, how to properly pay when getting on the bus using our tap to pay, as well as our fast fare cards. Working with people in every fashion just to be a little bit more comfortable with the whole bus situation. So it's not as foreign, not as outside the realm of feeling comfortable with it. Beyond that, we do have an event also as well. I'm meeting tomorrow with Helen Ruddier from the Disability Cultural Center on UW campus. We're planning the event in August called Badgers on Buses, or something similar with a name as far as that. Working with people with disabilities on campus, as well as all students returning to campus, to kind of promote riding the bus, number one, and the same kind of concept, feeling comfortable with getting on the bus, feeling comfortable with getting the routes, paying on the bus, just in general. So once again, a few marketing events coming up in the month of July and August. Really looking forward to promoting with the public.
And that's what we have for you. So we're available for questions.
Thank you so much. Comments or questions? Alder O'Brien.
Question about the cameras. Are they recording, or is it just like a view into that back area?
Yeah, so those cameras that are specific to the rear doors do not record. We do have cameras that record in that area, but it's not the specific one that the driver is seeing. But the entire bus is still recorded, just not that specific bus camera that's kind of hardwired into the bus.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thanks. Alder Okovich, go ahead.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you, everyone. For the lights that you're investigating for the stations, is the intent for that to be to signal to the driver that the ramp needs to go down, or to signal to the driver that somebody is at the station?
To signal that the ramp is needed with the bridge plate.
Are you looking at all into like an additional light for signaling that someone is at the station, or that somebody wants to be picked up?
We can look at that. We've typically not done that. We've typically relied on sight lines. We made some changes to the BRT stations under construction when they were under construction to make sure that the glass was all clear so that people can see the people on the platforms. We are stopping at the station if anybody looks like they are needing the bus or might be needing the bus. We've kind of tried to avoid having something like that for the fear that somebody would not push it and then the driver would get used to seeing that light. But I'll also turn that over to Brian if he has anything to add, or Mick.
Yeah, I sure do. The instruction has kind of been pushed to drivers, especially right now, that if there is anybody at the station, whether or not they look like they're about to ride, to stop, because the driver cannot possibly know the intent of every passenger at any given station. So hopefully that particular issue will kind of be quelled with that. So even sometimes at our busier stations, they may be waiting for a B when an A comes by, but regardless, our operators are instructed to stop if there is anybody at a BRT station.
Okay, thank you both.
Thanks. Lynn, go ahead.
Thank you. Because this body has discussed this issue before, I'm going to bring it up in this context. So have you officially changed your non-payment policy for addressing those riders from the original proposal that was given?
What? I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand the question, Lynn.
So we were proposed that if someone was non-payment, that the drivers were going to be trained on how to handle that, to not have situations arise. And then we talked about some other things and had some concerns about people being arrested and causing more harm. And I was on the bus the other day and 2 different buses stopped, yelled at the person who didn't pay. And on the second one, they called the police while we all sat waiting for the police to get there for a person who wasn't paying and was argumentative. So I want to know if you officially changed it or your drivers are just going rogue.
Yeah, so the experience that you recently experienced is unacceptable and very much against the instruction that is extremely clear to all operators that we've kind of worked with very collaboratively with some of our local labor leaders as well. If somebody is on any bus, BRT or regular local route, and they do not pay, the operator is to remind them to pay and continue the bus en route.
I had a driver get up, come to the back of the bus and confront a rider.
Yeah, so if you could email me that information, I can work on that offline.
Yeah. And I wonder if, I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't know that that's exactly the topic that we have on the agenda, since we're really focusing on equity for people with disabilities, although I suppose it's tangentially connected, but we don't really have material presented on that topic here, Brian and Mick. So I wonder, Lynn, if maybe it might be a good idea to ask for an update on that particular topic. We had one a few weeks ago. Maybe Brian and Mick, when you think you might have some additional information to come back and talk about, would that be a good plan?
Yes, we'd be glad to come back.
How about that, Lynn? Is that good? Okay. All right. Okay. Anybody else have? Bill, go ahead.
Thanks, Ann. And this is not, maybe is not the correct place because it doesn't deal with inequities with disadvantage. But it has more to do with training for motor vehicle drivers that I still see in social media and as well as from acquaintances that have asked me. They don't understand the traffic signal lights for the BRT drivers, of giving them prior when they need to stop and when they have clearance to proceed. And I just think maybe we need some training that just to get people comfortable that that light is not for them. It's just for the bus drivers. But they just, I don't know, whether they're thinking the system is not working right or just what those lights mean, the vertical white line and the vertical or the horizontal white line. So I think, I don't know if it's just more than curiosity, but I think as far as those drivers are concerned, but I think it would be, better for our motorists to understand that not everything applies to them.
Yeah, I can pass that on to the marketing team and we can see what we can do to get some information out.
Yeah, I think something in, whether it's in the newspaper or, something, public.
Yep.
On television or something that might get to more people than just, because, it's not something we can put on the buses or something that we can have with our own. It's to the drivers, to the motor vehicle drivers that they need to know. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Other comments or questions? Seems like you've been doing a lot oh, Robbie, go ahead.
Yeah.
Bill, was that, I'm sorry, Bill, your hand is still up. Were you done or did you have more?
Sorry.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Robbie, go ahead.
So, I do ride the bus, but I just wanted to ask in case I missed it. We don't have any standard announcements that remind people to leave the seats available for people who need to sit down or people who are older or, families or anything like that. We don't have any standard announcements, right?
No, but we can program it. We can do a lot more with those onboard announcements, and we could put up more information stickers too. But no, at the moment we do not.
Okay. I mean, when I'm on many like subways and light rail and things like that, they seem to have like running announcements that remind people of things like that. And I was just wondering if that might help. I'm not really sure it would. The buses I ride tend to be sort of campus downtown. And my suspicion is that there are a lot of people who've actually never used a bus before. So they actually are not aware of etiquette. But I am still in general able to ride standing up, but there have been a couple of times when I've had an injury and I really would have appreciated being able to sit down. And nobody has ever offered me a seat, which of course, sort of irritates me. But I did have one long before the network redesign. This was probably 6 years ago. I had a driver on a bus westbound on University Avenue announced to the entire bus, "I better not see anybody under 50 in those front seats." Which I found rather humorous, but I guess he knew his audience and knew that there were university staff getting on who probably needed to sit down, emeritus faculty or such. So I just wanted to know because, you mentioned the seats that are designated for wheelchair spaces, that you were thinking about having them pop up if they were not being used. And I didn't know if announcements would be useful at all. I suspect they might not, but it might be one way to just remind people.
Yep.
All right. Thanks.
Oh, thanks, Robbie. Yep.
Yeah, good suggestion. Other comments or questions? It's been really helpful. I'm glad we've added this to our work plan to hear from you at least twice a year. And whenever you feel you have additional information, I mean, there's a lot that you're working on. So whenever you feel you want to come back and provide an additional update, I think that's fantastic. And I also think getting focus groups together to ride the bus with you and give you feedback makes me wonder with some of those other challenges, like for example, the step that Mike C was talking about. Have you run issues like that past focus groups of people with all different kinds of disabilities to get feedback from them? Because that's just a really valuable tool that you're using, and I wonder if are you using it for all of these things that we're talking about, to try and get that feedback? Just something to think about.
Yep. Thanks, Ann.
Yeah. And I know you do get, Mick, when you and Denise and I went on a tour, Denise was giving all sorts of great feedback. And so I know you have that connection with a lot of people. But, having a small group together, you can sort of feed off each other and get some good conversation going. But really excellent work and much appreciated by all of us. Anybody have any other comments or questions? Okay, thanks to everybody for coming. It's a lot of great information.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, next we have Lieutenant Hannah with our quarterly traffic safety report. Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thank you. I'll just share my screen if that's all right. Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. Hopefully you can see that. Can you see that, Ann?
Yes, you got some smaller stuff off to the side. I don't know if you can make it full screen. That might be a little helpful. I'm not the person to ask about how to do that.
I know. I'm not either. I'm afraid that's probably not going to be a good one. Well, I'm not going to keep you very long. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Okay. We had one fatality crash in the first quarter of this year that I'll just go over quickly. And then we can talk about, hopefully all of you have had a chance to look at the report itself. If you have any questions, we can cover some of that too. But I'll start with the fatal crash. We had one, like I said, this one occurred at Raymond Road and South Gammon Road. If you're not familiar where that is exactly, it's down by where Muirfield Road is on Raymond. So kind of out towards, if you're heading towards Verona and all of that. Thursday, March 6, 2025 at 4:10 p.m. This is just a map of where that is to kind of help you visualize. It's the back part of Elver Park is the South Gammon Road here. Here's Muirfield. And the vehicle that was struck was on South Gammon Road. That woman was at the stop sign waiting to turn left onto Raymond Road to head inbound when a outbound vehicle struck her. It was a T-bone crash. The driver of the suspect vehicle did admit that he had been consuming alcohol. I believe there was also a couple cans of some sort of alcoholic beverage that was in his car. Again, he was speeding, which is probably one of the biggest things. The victim probably misjudged how fast he was going, unfortunately, when she pulled out. And his black box for the vehicle showed him going 90 miles an hour on Raymond Road. Which, if you know that area, that stop sign there, that hill, it's not a good intersection anyway. And then to have to come across a vehicle going at that speed certainly was not a good outcome. The road was dry. It was daylight. There were no environment or roadway factors that were part of this crash. The weather conditions were clear. The vehicle that is the suspect vehicle was a 2021 Mazda SUV. Only one person in the vehicle. He had minor injuries. The victim vehicle was a 2000 Lexus four-door sedan. There were 3 people in the car. It was a woman and her 2 grandchildren who were seated in the back seat. She unfortunately succumbed to her injuries. The grandchildren were physically pretty good. Suspect is a 20-year-old black male. Again, minor injury. He was using his seatbelt, his shoulder and lap belt. The airbags did deploy when we initially contacted him, obviously, given his admission and the fact that there were suspect alcohol cans in the car. We did believe that he had been drinking and or had taken some drugs. I don't know the results of those tests just yet. But again, speeding in addition to his impaired driving were the factors for this crash, and he did have an expired license. Victim is a 68-year-old white female. She too was wearing safety equipment. Her airbags did deploy. And again, she was attempting to make that left turn onto Raymond Road from South Gammon. The suspect was arrested, and that case is currently up at the DA's office. Does anyone have any questions about that? Pretty straightforward.
Bill has his hand up. Go ahead, Bill.
I guess this is not really a question to the lieutenant, but rather to Tom Moore, I guess, is I know we've got lots of plans in that area. Tom, any idea when Raymond Road will be relocated? And assuming that Gammon will be closed, it will not on Raymond. Do you have any? I mean, I don't expect to just say, is it a year out, 2 years out, 3 years out?
Yeah, right now it's on the schedule for 2030.
Oh, okay.
For the new Raymond Midtown connection, South High Point Road will connect through.
Okay.
Next year.
Okay.
So they're kind of working on that right now. So that will take some of the traffic, although someone headed south on Gammon. There is Marty Road that connects in. So not sure that would have made, not sure the High Point connection would have made a difference, but that will
no, I don't think so. This will eventually be closed, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Closed down at the, so
it'll be reconfigured there at the intersection.
But they won't have. I guess that's what I'm hoping that intersection will not exist, but don't know that for a fact. I guess with traffic that is on Midtown, that they will not be allowed to come around or be a shortcut to come up onto Raymond that way. I'm hoping, and then even there's not that many homes or even a business or whatever down at the on North at the Gammon where if they would be forced to make a right-hand turn and go down Midtown to go back toward High Point. But I don't know that if that's
I can't remember exactly what that redesign looks like.
To me, that's the solution for this intersection is to not have it, period. So I hope that this will not delay. Hopefully this will. Hate to see this person have to pass away like this because of foolishness of driving at that speed. I mean, that's the root problem, but I think we can. But not having that intersection would be better. Okay, thanks.
Other comments or questions for Lieutenant Hanna? I was rather appalled to see some over 100-mile-an-hour speeds on some of those speed tests. That was crazy. Alder O'Brien, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. When I was looking over the report, I noticed that the average minimum speed, and I didn't put this into a calculator, check the average minimum speed across all the different studies, but it seemed like it was about 15 to 18 miles an hour over the speed limit, which is, astronaut. That seems to me to be quite high. Can you just speak to why is 15 miles an hour over the speed limit kind of when you start pulling folks over, why not less than that? Just kind of curious.
Yep, absolutely. It really comes down to when people get pulled over by the police, we don't want to make, and I agree, any speeding, any dangerous driving should be addressed, right? But when you look at this stuff and you pull people over for these things, we want it to be a good ticket. And we usually, so we pull them over for 15 over, and then we write them for like 11 under, which is the less one under. There's a couple reasons why we do that, right? We don't like to be accused of making bad stops. You know, a lot of people complain that we pull people over for no reason. I think you can look at these grants and you can see that we have a pretty high threshold, maybe too high. It could be argued, right? 15 over is really high, especially if you're going in the 30 mile per hour on East Washington Avenue. 45 is unacceptable. But it is better for court. I hate to say that, but it really is. We don't want to look like we're getting ticky-tacky and then the judge is upset because we're writing these tickets that maybe we seem a little, I don't want to say oppressive. I mean, you know what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
So we pull people over at 15 is usually the low. And then again, we write them the lower ticket for a couple of reasons. We get them a break, but we're also still giving them a ticket. They're still having consequences to this driving behavior. Also, my experience has been if they go to court to try to argue that ticket, that the judge will usually have not anything to do with that. Like they don't want to hear it, right? You were already given a break. You were clocked at going 15 over. This officer gave you a break, and you're arguing this ticket. It's a much cleaner stop just because of we don't want to be oppressive. We don't want to be those cops, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that sounds probably really silly, but
I mean, I appreciate the honesty. You know, like it's just when I was looking at it, I was just noticing that was such a large distance over it, and that was just kind of shocking to me.
It's huge. It's huge, and you can tell by those numbers that we are making a significant amount of stops at those speeds. Also, those speeds are when it really gets dangerous, right? Anything above that is absurd. And so there's also that safety part of it as well. You're not just speeding, you're creating a hazard out here for everybody. Other drivers, pedestrians, bikers, fill in the blank. So it's not just speeding, it's the dangerousness of the 15 over too that's compelling, I think.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you'll always get honesty from me, I'll tell you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Alder, and thanks, Lieutenant. Robbie, go ahead.
So I was kind of curious in reading through the report on the locations that were that you set up, and maybe I wanted to clarify. It looks like there are some grants that you're doing in conjunction with Dane County, so the road has to be a joint county-city location. Is that correct?
That's correct. It has to be a shared roadway. So University Avenue or Park Street. Let's go. Park Street is Highway 14. East Washington Avenue is Highway 151. It has to be something that they too can run their grants on. So we run our grants on the same day, in the same location, but not necessarily. Well, and when I say location, the same roadway, and it doesn't need to be at the same time. But we do have to have something like they can't do it on Brearley Street, for example.
It seemed like you had the same locations over and over again. And needless to say, there are problems, but I noticed that there were quite a few other relatively large streets that were not also getting attention. You started to say University Avenue, and I know that University Avenue west of Shorewood Hills is also county, but I didn't see any enforcement there as an example.
Right. University Avenue is kind of tricky, believe it or not, because it's always under construction.
Yeah.
It's a very strange highway, and there's not really a good place, to be honest. It's not a good place for an officer to shoot laser and have cars set up to make these stops. I would love to do more on University because I know how dangerous it is and how fast those speeds are out there. But sometimes it's just a matter of logistics and what would work out for us. And yeah, we do the same streets, but again, understanding that when I put down University Avenue, that means we can do whatever we want in the city part of University Avenue. So it just has to be general enough because it's a shared roadway. That's part of the requirement. It's the county's grants that they are generous enough to share with us 50-50. And so we have to kind of play by what the rules of the grants are as put forth by the DOT, if that makes sense.
Because I did see a couple on Midvale, which I didn't know was a county.
Well, it turns into Verona Road and it's all part of that. Like we can make that case. It's stuff like that. There has to be some sort of nexus.
Okay.
John Nolan Drive, I think, is 151 alternate or whatever they call it. So, we can do John Nolan Drive, but there has to be that connection.
Okay. I was just curious about, because I saw the same location repeatedly.
Yes.
And I think you had Milwaukee Street. Is that a county road?
We do it off of, I believe there's BB and AB and something else over there. And they are off of Stoughton Road. So again, there's that nexus to Stoughton Road, which is 51.
Okay. But then I was going to say other ones, it looks like you were, in some cases, you said that you had pedestrian bicycle safety grants and maybe ones that are not county roads, you could set up for speeding on those for.
Yes, that is an excellent question. The 3 grants that we share with the county are the alcohol, the speed, and the seatbelt. The bike ped grants are our grants. We get all of it because there's really not a lot of pedestrians necessarily in the county. So we get this grant and we are able to do things on our other roads like Atwood Avenue, over by Old Gardens, Maple Avenue, where there's all those kids and crosswalks and bike paths and everything else. So we really try to make up for some of the streets that we can't hit with the other grants by using our bike ped funds.
Okay.
Gives us a little more leeway.
Yep. Okay. Thanks.
You bet.
Thanks. Pepe, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Lieutenant Hannah, for being here.
Pleasure.
I have a couple of questions. One is connecting to the last thought that that was shared before in terms of the pedestrian bike safety grants. Seeing the first quarter deployments, there were 8 of them connected to the pedestrian bike safety grants. Can you speak more a little bit about the nature of what those grants are about? Is it generally the same as the other grants, or because it's bike pedestrian safety, is there a different approach there, or different things are you looking for?
Yeah, there is a different approach actually. So we will look at crosswalks, whether vehicles are yielding to pedestrians from crosswalks. We'll go to intersection where there's a no turn on red. Most often no turn on red is there because it's probably a crosswalk that's used by folks and people are looking, one way to see if cars are coming so they can make that right turn and they miss the pedestrian that's walking from the other direction. So it's things like that. We do run some of them like a speed grant just because we know that speed on roadways that are pedestrian heavy is a serious danger to pedestrians. So it really depends on which district they're in. Our department is broken up into 6 districts. And so I try to give one grant to each district each month. However, I should tell you that shortly after this administration took over, the funding for our grants was cut tremendously. The county grants have since been restored to almost their original amount that they were first given to us at. Unfortunately, the bike ped has not been increased. So we're working with a lot less money. Unfortunately, they started the year giving us $80,000. The grant year starts in October. They said, "Hey, do you want $80,000?" Sure, absolutely. And then that got cut in half within a few months. And so we had kind of been running our grants with the number of grants based on what we had originally had for money, and now we're kind of like really slowing down to kind of make that kind of spread a little bit further because the grant year goes through September 30th. So you're going to kind of see some fluctuation too in some of these grant numbers just because the funding for a bit was held up, taken away. And hopefully we'll get back on track in the next coming quarters. But ped bike is, unfortunately, that's probably not going to come back this year.
I see. Yeah, no, that's unfortunate for sure. And just to confirm here, is any of that is a grant for pedestrian bike safety utilized only for drivers and enforcing drivers, or is there any part of it enforcing also the vulnerable users of the road? In this case, pedestrians, cyclists, other people rolling, etc.
Yeah, our focus with these grants is to focus on dangerous driving behavior that affects pedestrians and bicyclists. Just because that is unacceptable, right?
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's what I wanted to confirm.
We could write our fair share of bikes that go through stop signs. I've honked at a few this last couple of weeks, but we don't focus on that for these grants. We know that bikes and pedestrians are vulnerable. We know that they are the ones that are going to bear the brunt of a crash, and it's not going to end well. And so that is why our focus is on driving that really affects those folks.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
And then one more question I have is that I was looking at the data too, and it looks like, fatalities and fatal crashes and serious injury crashes are kind of like down compared to what is at the end of the year, similar to other first quarters.
Yes.
But the level of complaints, though, it's high in comparison to other years. Can you speak a little bit about the nature of those complaints? Like, how is it that we see this difference of like the actual problems reported down, but the complaints being high?
Well, crashes, I think, are typically always down in the first quarter just because it's after the holiday season, it's winter, people kind of huddle in and don't really leave their houses a lot. And we see those numbers increase as the year goes on because now people are outside and they're driving, they're traveling, they're going on vacations. And so there's that natural increase, unfortunately. As far as complaints, yeah, those never stop. I wish I had a PM test team because I would really like to address a lot more of the complaints we get from citizens. Most of it is like, hey, speeding on my street. Nobody stops at the crosswalk for me when I'm coming back from the store, but speeding is the big one. That's a huge one. I'd say that's probably 85% of the complaints are probably speed related.
Awesome. Thank you.
Traffic complaints are the number one complaints that we get in the Madison Police Department. I mean, it really fires people up, rightly so.
And that data is not organized in a more detailed way, right? It's not, we can know the nature of like what's, I mean, you're saying it's mostly speeding, but it'd be great to like maybe see that, confirm that. I feel like it will help guide. I know that you're probably already guiding your work and guiding the, the use of funds towards that, but it will probably be something that we can see in the future.
It's difficult because the complaints come to our department from a million different ways, right? They'll call the OIC and say, hey, some guy was just passed me on the belt line at 90 miles an hour. They'll come via the complaint line, which is a phone line. They'll come via the computer, the email, the complaint box that we could do on the thing. So they come in all these places, and I'm going to warn you now because it's going to get worse as far as tracking our complaints, because I haven't had a traffic stenographer. I haven't had my traffic assistant for a while, and that is the person who really kind of put all of those things together from all of those places. So we just lost our data guy to, I believe, parking. So we're trying to figure out right now how to get some of this information. Again, I'm being honest, Alder. Alder O'Brien. We're trying to find other ways to get this information and utilizing some of our other analysts now that we don't have our really, really awesome guy who just left. So things might get a little bumpy here in the interim. Please bear with me while we get through this rough patch, but I'll get you what I can.
Thank you for sharing the reality.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks, Pepe. Alder O'Brien, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you again. So as we all know, the South Stoughton Road is being, under study by WSDOT. I also am guessing, based on how many times I see a Monona police officer parked on there, that it's kind of split jurisdiction between City of Madison and Monona, depending on which stretch you're on.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about, like, future, like how are y'all working and sharing data with WISDOT to make sure that they're aware of the high speeds that are that are happening on here? And are there additional studies or grants planned for South Stoughton Road during the study? And or do you know if like State Patrol or anybody from the state is going to be conducting grants like this? I don't know if they have the jurisdiction to do that on there either.
Yeah, State Patrol probably would not, but certainly the county would have jurisdiction, McFarland, Stoughton, Monona to some extent. I don't know what they have planned. I know that I do sit in on those meetings. Even though I'm a part of those meetings, it seems like it's very engineering heavy and ideas and things like that. And I know that, and this is not anything against engineers. They're awesome and they know what they're doing. But there are some things where it would be nice if just somebody asked occasionally, because I don't think the numbers always tell the story, right? Just because somebody's not injured in a crash, like we capture the big stuff, but there's also little crashes that maybe don't have the extent of damage or injury, that we know about. But it's not in these reports that were given, and I don't know how much they're digging into it. I would assume that they're digging into some of it, probably. And that guides their work. It would be nice to be a little asked a few more questions.
Yeah, great. And then this data will be shared with WISDOT as well.
Well, what data?
Or just like specifically the Stoughton Road one, and I don't know if you have any future ones will happen, if that'll also be shared with WISDOT.
Well, I would share the grant information, whatever we do for our purposes. I'm willing to share that to anybody. I don't know what kind of studies are being done by the state as they redo that road. I don't know how they're gauging their data collection and all of that. So that is still a mystery to me. It's a lot of meetings and they talk about ideas and things like that. But, that's not my daily thing. It's their daily thing. So I'm not 100% sure what's all going into that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Tom might know. Tom Moore. I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thanks, Alder. Bill, go ahead.
Thanks, Ann. Lieutenant, I appreciate, and it's good information on the grants, but I guess I'm also, is there any way of knowing how productive our test unit is doing? And then also kind of a follow-up to that is do you see any change, or what is the attitude of our beat officers? Are they willing to say they've got between, if they're not getting on, I know they get a lot of calls, but when they are not getting calls, are they willing to run speed enforcement in the areas that they know or where they're close to, that they could, run looking for violations, so traffic violations? Yeah. Do you see any attitude change as far as the officers? Are they getting, I understand they're busy and, with other calls, but when they aren't busy, are they willing to run, are they willing to run traffic enforcement?
Yeah. So to answer your first question about test, I do get data on test because they work under me. And so I do know how many tickets they're writing. And if you'd like me to spread that out and give you that information, I have no problem.
I think that would be useful in the next quarterly report.
Yeah, absolutely. I will add that.
There's a separate breakout of how test is doing.
Yes. Just the thing about test is it's 5 officers and a sergeant, and they work Monday through Friday, 6 to 2. So we have a lot of time that's not covered by a traffic team. So when we look at these numbers coming up, just something to think about as we look at those numbers. And there are other things that they do with, some of them teach in the academies. There's not a lot of time that isn't spent on something, and not all of it is traffic. The other thing too, yes, officers are encouraged to run traffic. We have community policing teams, and one of our summer initiatives that came from the front office was that those community policing teams should be dedicating, I don't know how many hours they dedicate to it, but dedicating a certain amount of time to traffic in their districts. And so I know that is important. I know that that's been that's been an assignment for them for this summer to improve some of the safety in their own districts by running traffic projects. I don't supervise those folks, so I'm not sure how that's going. I can find out. As far as patrol goes, I'm always cautious to say that an officer isn't busy, because even when they're not on the call, they're probably writing a report or doing the investigation, or, maybe getting a bite to eat or go to the bathroom. And the other thing too is, just because they might not be on a call, they have to really be careful with what they're doing in relation to what is going on in their district and how many officers are tied up on calls. Because you don't want to be that officer who's out running traffic when, 5 of the 6 West District officers on the afternoon shift are running around. The next one's yours. You better not be hiding doing traffic. And so that's a balance too, right? There are officers that hate traffic. There are officers that love it. It's the full gamut. But I know that they're fitting it in when they can. It's just lately finding the time to fit it in is difficult. There's a lot of expectations now on officers that it's changed a lot. So I try to take all of that with a grain of salt too, with what they're doing. I know they're doing hard work out there.
Okay, thanks. Yep, understand.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bill. Anybody have any other comments or questions? I think, one of the reasons that we asked to start seeing these quarterly traffic safety reports was so that we could get a good sense of where there may be safety issues that should be permanently addressed through infrastructure changes or other traffic safety improvements. And I know that Tom and Yang and others work closely with the folks, yourself, Jen, and the folks in the police department, as safety concerns come to the surface, that there's discussion about what can we do to improve safety at this location in the future. So I think that's one of the big reasons that we wanted to become more aware of all this data and the dangerous situations. So we can talk about what could be done to try and prevent it in the future.
Absolutely. And I would say that when we get a complaint about something, and maybe it's something that could be fixed with some engineering, I think the communication between the police department, my unit, and traffic engineering is fantastic. When there's a fatality crash, and I don't know how many of you know this, but they'll do a rapid response and go out to see what, if anything, can be done from an engineering standpoint to make something safer. So I feel like we're really working well together. And this is a good opportunity just to talk about those things, but it's been good.
Yeah. And I just want to remind everybody of that, because I think that goes on behind the scenes, and people aren't always aware that there's that great communication and that proactive review and response to something like that's happened. So, yeah, we really appreciate the information, and we appreciate how you have evolved the report as we've asked for additional information or noticed things when we've been talking with you. So thanks so much for that. And we do understand the limitations that you have right now with the staffing issues as well. So
hopefully just a bump.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks so much. Does anybody have any other comments or questions for Lieutenant Hannah?
All right.
Okay.
Bill, I want to just thank you for that suggestion. I'm going to write that down right now about the test numbers. And again, if anybody has anything else they want to see in that report or questions that they might have, please feel free to email me. Okay. Call me, email me, and we can get you that information. Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if you don't have her contact information, you can email Aiden or myself, and we'll be sure and get it over to her. So
I'm always happy to help. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate the work you're doing.
Okay. No, we appreciate you as well. Thanks so much.
All right. You bet. Be well.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Next we have crossover reports from TC members who are members of other boards, committees, and commissions. Any reports or updates for us? No? Okay, not seeing any. Great. In terms of announcements, just a reminder that we had a great presentation on the revitalized ADA transition plan. Rebecca did that for us at the last meeting. And just want to remind everybody that the plan is open for public comment until August 23rd. And the final plan will be presented to the Common Council in September and should be referred back to the Transportation Commission, I believe, as well. And there should have been, I saw this afternoon, the press release that talked about the public information sessions was distributed to people just in case you hadn't already seen it. There was a session tonight that's going on until 8 o'clock. And that's on program services, activities, and employment. And the virtual public information session on public right-of-way is on July 16th. And the session on public facilities and web and digital accessibility is on July 23rd. And the information on how to register is in that press release. So just wanted to remind everybody of that. And that's all I had in terms of announcements. And the next future agenda items. For the July 23rd meeting, we just had a couple of items on the agenda, but if it does move forward, one of the items is looking at Midvale Boulevard, and that's been Tom and other folks have done a lot of work on that project, and we expect that there may be a lot of people coming and wanting to talk about it. So if that is ready, that could be a significant part of the agenda. And then going into August, we have a number of things coming, including traffic safety concerns on Williamson Street and Jennifer Street, which were brought to the commission by some folks under item 1 at the last meeting, and a number of other updates. Does anybody have any other future agenda items that you would want to see added that aren't already on our list? No? Okay, we have a good list going, so then we need a motion to adjourn. Robbie.
Move adjournment.
Okay, Alder Martinez Rutherford.
I second.
Okay, I'm going to assume a unanimous consent vote, and I have yet to have anybody object to adjourning. So thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.